A king sat on his throne. The floor of the hall was polished stone. Guards stood at attention, and scrolls of debts lay stacked high beside him. People came one by one, bowing low, waiting for their names to be read. Then came a servant. His name was called, and he stepped forward, trembling. The scroll of his debt was so heavy, it took 2 men to carry it. The numbers written on it stretched across the page, millions of silver coins. A debt so great that 10 lifetimes of work would never be enough to repay it. But what is debt? Debt is when you borrow something you cannot pay back yet. If you borrow money from a king, you must return it later. If you borrow a tool from a neighbor, you must give it back. Debt means you owe something. And if you cannot repay your debt, in those days, the punishment was terrible. People could lose their homes, their land, even their families. Sometimes a person who could not pay was thrown into prison or sold as a slave until the debt was covered. That is why the servant trembled. His debt was far too large. He could never pay it. The king's voice echoed through the hall. This man owes more than he can ever repay. The crowd gasped. Everyone knew what this meant. The law was clear. If a man could not repay his debt, he and his family could be sold as slaves. His house, his land, everything he owned would be gone. The guards moved closer. The servant's face went pale. His knees shook. Finally, he dropped to the ground, bowing low before the king. "Please, my lord," he cried, "have patience with me, and I will repay everything." But everyone knew it was impossible. The debt was far too great. His words were like promises to move a mountain with his bare hands. Hopeless. The hall grew quiet. Everyone watched the king. The king looked down at the man groveling at his feet. He saw the fear in his eyes, the weight of despair in his voice. And then, something unexpected happened. The king's heart was moved with compassion. He raised his hand, stopping the guards. "Release him," the king said. "Erase the debt." Every coin, every piece of silver, wiped away. The scroll of debt was rolled up, tied with a cord, and thrown into the fire. The servant was free. That is called mercy. Mercy means not getting the punishment you deserve. The servant deserved prison, but instead he was forgiven. He walked out free. Everyone in the hall would remember this moment. Mercy had triumphed over judgment, but what the servant did next would shock them all. The servant staggered to his feet. He could hardly believe it. One moment he was facing chains, prison, and shame. The next moment, he was free. The debt was gone, millions erased in a single word. He was no longer a condemned man. He was a forgiven man. The hall buzzed with whispers. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others smiled in wonder at the king's kindness. No one had ever seen such mercy before. The servant walked out of the palace with his hands still trembling. He kept glancing back at the great hall, as if expecting the guards to run after him. But no one came. He was truly free. He took a deep breath of the fresh air outside. The sky seemed bluer, the air sweeter. His steps felt lighter than ever before. But something else stirred in his heart. Relief, yes, but not gratitude, not humility. Instead, pride. I must be someone special, he thought. The king chose me. He forgave me. I must be important. He walked with a lifted chin, almost forgetting how close he had come to ruin. And then he saw a man in the distance, another servant, a familiar face. This man owed him money. Not much, just 100 silver coins, a debt small enough that with patience, anyone could repay it. The forgiven servant's heart hardened. He marched toward the man. "Hey, you owe me money. Pay me back what you owe." The man gasped, shocked by the sudden grip on his throat. "Please, have patience with me. I promise I'll pay it all back. Just give me time." The crowd nearby froze. The words were familiar, almost the same as what the forgiven servant had said to the king just hours before. But he did not hear them. His pride roared louder than mercy. "No, I will not wait. Pay me now or go to prison." The second servant fell to his knees. Tears filled his eyes. "Please, have mercy." But mercy was the last thing in his heart. Instead of remembering the kindness shown to him, the forgiven servant clenched his fist. He called the guards, and with cold command, he ordered the man thrown into prison until every coin was repaid. The second servant's cries echoed as he was dragged away. The crowd that witnessed it stood in stunned silence. They remembered the king's throne room. They remembered the mountain of debt that had just been erased. And now they watched as the man who had been forgiven millions refused to forgive a handful of coins. Whispers began to stir again, angry, shocked, heartbroken whispers. And soon, word reached the king. The whispers filled the palace halls. "Did you hear? The man forgiven of millions has thrown another into prison for a small debt." The story spread like fire. Servants shook their heads. Some clenched their fists in anger. Others wiped tears, grieving the shame of it. It did not take long for the news to reach the throne room. "Bring him back to me," said the king. The guards went at once. The unforgiving servant, still strutting with pride, was seized by the arm and dragged back into the hall. The crowd followed, eager and anxious to hear what the king would say. The king's eyes burned with both sorrow and anger. He looked down at the man kneeling once again before him. "You wicked servant," said the king, "I forgave you all that debt because you begged me. Should you not also have had mercy on your fellow servant, just as I had mercy on you?" The words struck like thunder. The crowd murmured in agreement. Everyone could see the truth. The forgiven man's lips trembled. He tried to speak, but no words came. His mind raced. Maybe the king will change his mind again. Maybe he will let me go one more time. But this time, there was no mercy. The king lifted his hand. "Take him away. Deliver him to the jailers until he pays back every coin." The crowd gasped. Every coin. Everyone knew he could never repay it. The meaning was clear. He would never be free again. The guards grabbed him by the arms. He struggled. He shouted, "Wait, please, give me another chance." But it was too late. His cries echoed down the corridor as the guards dragged him away. The iron doors slammed shut behind him. Mercy had been given. Mercy had been refused. And now, judgment had fallen. The people left in the hall whispered among themselves. Some trembled. Others wiped tears from their eyes. All of them understood the warning. And then Jesus ended his parable with these words, "So also my heavenly Father will do to every one of you, if you do not forgive your brother from your heart." The story was not only about servants and kings, it was about us. This story is more than about a king and a servant. It's about us. We are like the servant with an impossible debt. Our sin is greater than we can repay. But God, the great King, showed us mercy through Jesus. He erased the debt. He set us free. The question is, what will we do with that mercy? Will we live hard-hearted, holding grudges over small wrongs? Or will we remember how much we've been forgiven and choose to forgive others? Jesus' warning is clear. Mercy received must become mercy given. So, when someone hurts you, when a friend breaks a promise, when anger rises inside you, remember this story. God forgave us more than we can imagine. And because of that, we can forgive too. Which servant will you be?